Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings and the last of the Embraced by Magic pentalogy because, I've just been feeling like it. And because the bigger a backlog I build up of these videos, the more likely it is that I can finish reading my, self-assigned books that I am reading for reasons rather than just because I read them and I liked them books without, having to push myself on it. Anyways, so the Siren in the Deep Blue Sea, obviously the last of the sisters, she finds out in this book that her mother is an evil sorceress and is the one behind the Circle of Five who were trying to take over the 5 countries at issue. And it turns out that of the Circle of Five, the last one left of that circle, they figure out who the 4 of them are. The 5th one, it turns out, is the Seer on the Isle of Mist. That is, the Isles of Mist are the place where the convent is, where these young women were raised. And the Seer's been living there, and it turns out that the Seer is A, her father, and B, that he wound up accidentally starting this Circle of 5 people trying to take over the world, because what happened was he, as a seer, he tended to see large numbers of visions of really, really horrific things, and periodically he would see visions of an excellent future. And he eventually decided that these visions were telling him that in order for this excellent future to happen, he had to get off his butt and do a thing. So he starts making plans to become a benevolent tyrant. From what I can tell, that was sort of his big plan, was to take over and enforce his will, and sort of make everybody sit down, be quiet, and be nice to each other. So, in a very odd way, it's kind of an Anakin Skywalker-y thing. That is the, why don't we just sit down and make everybody be nice? Which is all very well and good, but the problem with benevolent tyrannies is even if they are genuinely benevolent, the problem is who gets to be king after you. And that's always kind of a crapshoot. So, anyways, he starts trying to, make his plans to take over the world in order to make everybody be nice, and his plans get co-opted by the queen from this island, and this queen, who is a very powerful sorceress, basically convinces him that she's totally doing this to make his vision of a peaceful world come true, when in point of fact what she's really trying to do is take over the world for her own purposes and entertainment and power, power. He finds out about this after, because she starts sleeping with him and seduces him and stuff, and he falls in love with the woman that he thinks she is. And she's done it because he is the last of the great race of sorcerers from the place that they're from. It's an island and they had these sorcerers, and then it's kind of very Atlantis-like. I believe the implication is supposed to be that they managed to blow up their own island because they all overused their magic and just, everything went kablooey. So, she wants him because he is part of one of the last of their master race and stuff. Anyways, he figures out that she doesn't actually want to, help him live his dream. When he finds out that she's pregnant, he's like, oh, that's wonderful! And I had a vision that your baby is going to be even more powerful than both of us. And she's like, what? I'm going to have a kid who's more powerful than me? Well, that's the worst news ever. Which, the thing about that is that's always a very, very fundamentally bad people projecting thing, because, I mentioned this in one of my videos on Anne McCaffrey's novella Rescue Run. And I'm talking about Rescue Run, and the thing that happens in that novella is that you have this guy who is absolutely sure that he's being lied to, that there is totally enough fuel to get them where they're going when there really, really isn't. And they ask him, why would we lie about this? And he's, says, what are you talking about? Of course you'd lie about this. And they all think that it's because he went crazy. I maintain that it's because he was projecting, that because in their position he would have absolutely lied about how much fuel there was for his own purposes, that he can't understand why anybody wouldn't. That he just assumes they would because he would. In the case of Siren in the Deep Blue Sea, the evil queen is, I assume, saying, well, if she's more powerful than I am, then she will just, kill me and take over, because that's what I would do if I was more powerful than my parents. And, anyway, so that's how our heroine Maeve winds up being raised at the convent, because the queen gives birth and then just sort of pitches her at the convent and says, that's great, she's out of the way and I don't have to worry about it. Anyway, so in the course of this book, we also find out Maeve has fallen in love with Brody, who is a guy who can only be in his true form for 2 hours every day. Interestingly enough, at no point, basically what he assumes, at first he had assumed that he couldn't be human, but when he finally decides to try to impersonate another human being, because he'd only ever tried to be an animal, he finds out that he can totally hold a form that is a human form, just not his own actual form. And I'm amazed that nobody in this book ever suggested, well, why don't you shapeshift into yourself and then add some features that you don't have, because then it won't be your true form. Like, shapeshift into yourself and then add a mole or extra toes. It's like, if you have 6 toes on each foot, that's not your true form, but you'll basically just be you, and you could then, just lead a normal life, because you could just be that for all the time. Nobody suggests that, and I'm, I really, really think that somebody should have suggested that, because that would have solved his problem without them having to go through the whole rigmarole at the end of her, having to break the curse on him. But anyways, the thing is that he spends all of his time as a dog, and the first time she saw him in the first book, she thought that he was a girl dog and called him Julia, and has been calling him Julia ever since, which she does it because negative attention is better than no attention, and she has a big crush on Brody, and, turns out to be true love, yada yada, but and he just feels remarkably distressed at the fact that she keeps calling him a girl's name, because, he's not a girl. He is a manly man. He is a prince. A prince who is really, really in love with her, because it turns out that Brody, despite the fact that basically he's been spending all of his time noodling around as a dog and, pretending to be a dog and acting as a spy, is actually a prince of the Isle of Mist. So, because the Isles of Mist, actually, they have a queen, and, anyways, so it's interesting, because Brody is set up throughout all the other books as just a guy with a really, really useful skill, who has been employed by King Leo to, spy for him and stuff, because having somebody who can turn into animals is a useful spy. And, things like that. And then it turns out that what he is a prince who has refused to, set himself up as the heir to the throne on his native Isle of Mist, because he, feels that he can't properly be king if he is, a dog for 22 hours out of the day, which is completely fair. Anyway, we have a lot of, excitement and denouement, and the silliest army ever. The thing about the Embraced in this series is it's basically X-Men powers, but caused by magic, right? That you're born on this particular day, and if you're born on that day, then you get your X-Men powers. And so somebody had said, well, we're going to create an army of the embraced. And, so they've been kidnapping embraced children and bringing them to this island. And lo and behold, their army is 7 people, like 3 or 4 of whom are under 15. And all I could think looking at that was, you're kidding. You have this many kids, like you've been kidnapping embraced children for all of these years, and you've managed to only pull off an army of 7? Like, really? That's really, really sad. I mean, on top of which, you have one of the ones in the village who, like, she can talk to birds, and they point out that, like, she's an mate that's, like, perfect spy craft. You can, like, have a starling and tell it, can you go over there and spy on people and come back and tell me what you saw, and nobody would ever know, but apparently that's not useful enough. Anyways, it's weird, because it's like, we are an army of 7, and then they have, like, this big battle, and it feels really, really problematic, because, like, 2 of the people involved in the battle have the same superpowers as the 2 on the other side, and it's just, the whole thing is just kind of really, really dopey, especially because, like, the 2 on the side of truth, justice, and the whatevering way are way older and, one would guess, way more practiced in the use of their powers than the younger ones on the other side. Anyways, I don't even know. Like, the whole thing is, the whole thing is just tacky and weird and badly strategized out and everything, and I don't even care, because I was just having such a good time with, like, the guy who had been turned into a cat, except he could, like, it's like, I'm going to punish your sister by turning you into an animal, and it's like, yeah, but he's a shapeshifter, so yes, you can trap him in the body of a cat, but then he can turn into a tiger whenever he wants, and it's like, such a, like, just all of these weird holes in things, and it is wild and fun and dopey. The whole thing is so endlessly dopey. Like, this particular book is just so endlessly dopey. I can't even, and I had such a good time with it. It's like, it's a wonderful dopey climax to a dopey series about dopey people. And, like, if you enjoy any one of these books, then you'll enjoy the rest of them, but if you don't enjoy any one of these books, then you're not going to enjoy them, because they are mediocrely written, but they're fun. They're fun in a dopey way. I personally do not recommend the sex scenes. They frankly feel awkward to me, but that may just be my taste. It's real romance novel sex. It's very, very delicate, but it's also extremely it feels extremely adolescent, and I say this as somebody who has read and written a lot of third-rate fan fiction sex scenes. It feels a lot like those. Anyways, so yeah, if you like things that are fantasy novels, YA caliber writing, and troped up to the just troped up to the neck, you'll like these. If you're not, then you won't. I can't really say anything else. Yeah, so that's everything, and hopefully I will have pulled myself together enough by the following weeks that we can stop talking about books that are quite this dopey. So that's everything, and I will see you all next week.